Today is Wednesday, November the 30th, 2011. I'm Matthew T.G.
Stephen Sheets.
I'm Steve Stanley.
I'm Heath Mulligan.
And I'm Tony Casey, not nearly as choked up as Stephen is. Hey, welcome to the Techology Show, a weekly podcast featuring technology, theology, and everything in between. The world's only user-antagonistic podcast. This is episode 134. Stephen, you okay over there?
I am. And can I ask a question? I don't know, 134 episodes. I've probably watched 130 of them, and I still don't understand, and I haven't looked it up on Wikipedia, what in the world a user-antagonistic podcast is. If this is the only one, what is it?
We just like
it is what it is.
If you have to ask, you wouldn't understand, Stephen.
I am what I am.
It means that Tony fiddled with the intro. That's what that means.
So did anyone brave the Black Friday crowds?
Nope.
I did.
I was too busy touring Air Force 2.
Yeah.
I
really? Where did you do that at?
At Andrews Air Force Base in D.C.
That's a cool place. Is that where one of the, what's the real fast airplane? That's
Jet?
No. The one that's no longer in use anymore. What is that thing called? Yes. Is there a Concorde there?
I have no idea.
I feel like I've been there before. You have no idea? Is there one of the? Is it the shuttle glider? Is that there?
I have no idea.
Do they have? Do they have concessions?
I was too busy sitting in the cockpit of Air Force 2
Did you get a hot dog
to care about anything else.
Yeah, are there concessions there, Stephen? Candy bars, stuff like that.
There was nothing like that.
Did you speak to the Occupy people? Were they there?
I missed it. What'd you say?
Did you speak to the Occupy people? Were they there?
I did not see any occupiers.
Oh,
no.
All right. Now, Steve, were you being serious? Did you brave the Black Friday crowds?
Yeah, crowded right up to my keyboard and put all my purchase orders in. Sure did.
You cheated,
betcha.
man.
I did something
That internet
braver.
traffic was terrible.
Even braver than that, I took 5 kids to the movies, so we went and saw the Muppets. So,
How's that?
What a good dad.
best Muppet movie ever.
Day.
Yes.
It was
What a
phenomenal.
good
I
day.
want to see
great.
it. I'm excited.
I
It's
want to
like-
take your picture.
I would say,
Is it kid appropriate?
Oh, except
No.
for one little, but it's a Willie Nelson joke. If you'll get my drift on that, there's like a Willie Nelson character sitting there. It's like they say the lows, and the Willie Nelson guy's like the highs.
So it's a movie about drugs. Is that what we're saying here, Heath?
No.
Father of the Year. That's what you're going to be. I'm going to put you on Facebook.
It's not
like that.
easy being green.
Oh, I love to hear Heath sing that song. Okay, well, let's move on then. So our first story today, ESPN came out with the news that they had a tape of someone who basically seems to be admitting that their husband is a pedophile. If you've been keeping up in the news, there's been kind of an additional story to the Penn State, and that's at Syracuse. An assistant coach there, last name is Fine. There have been 3 now that have come forward alleging that he made sexual advances to them, that he abused them. And way back in 2002, guy's last name is Davis, one of the accusers, has a phone conversation with Fine's wife, and she pretty much admits, if you've heard this, she pretty much admits that her husband is this.
Yeah. Yes.
Go ahead.
She came out yesterday afternoon saying that the tape was doctored with that a lot of things that she said was left out of that conversation, and that had the other parts of the conversation been in there, that she basically denied, insinuating that her husband was doing anything wrong. She was, defending her husband.
It doesn't take away from my main reason for having this story in here, and that's this, that when ESPN got a hold of this tape, the question is this: should they have turned that over to law enforcement?
Absolutely.
By their own standard of what they held Joe Pa to, yes.
As far as I understand the law, if such a charge is made, you have to turn it over to. Even pastors do, clergy do.
What about, one of the things that ESPN is saying is, well, we didn't turn it over because we didn't have corroborating evidence.
Neither did Joe Pa.
Yeah.
It's such a double standard. You can't call for, they can't blast Joe Pa for what he did when, unbeknownst to us, they had done the exact same thing.
Yeah. I mean, they were ones who really chased Joe Pa. And basically saying this, and we talked about this in the pre-show, that Joe Pa broke no law. As a matter of fact, he followed the policy of the school.
Yes.
The criticism has been this, that he broke a social mores, that he should, if the school wasn't going to do anything, he should have gone to law enforcement with what he knew.
Right.
And so what you just said, ESPN is not living up to their own standard.
Right. And even agree or disagree with Joe Pa and how it was handled, he has major basis for a unlawful termination because he did. He followed the school's policy to the letter of the law and was still fired. The thing with the Syracuse story up to this point is completely different reaction on campus to everything. And there's a great story on ESPN about that today. But also, ironically, but also there doesn't seem to be, from the university's standpoint, a cover-up yet. That may come out eventually.
They seem to be taking it seriously at this point and acting upon it. Steven, I'm really curious. You're in Pennsylvania there. Has there been any kind of reaction in that state with ESPN and this tape and them not turning it over to law enforcement?
No. When I read the show notes yesterday, that was the first that I've even seen anything on this angle.
Yeah, I suppose that the state of Pennsylvania, they would just kind of like for this whole thing to go away, probably.
Yeah. I read, and I can't tell you right now where. Maybe one of you read it as well. Someone wrote a "I wish" press statement from Penn State about them canceling the football program and getting back to the basics of education. That it was a pretty well written idea on how blown out of proportion this whole thing has been because of the influence of sports over education and over morals.
Yeah. I think it stings at Penn State because for me in my lifetime, and as long as Joe Pa's been there, which has been my lifetime, there has been this perception that Penn State stood above all of this. Mm-hmm. So I think it hurts a lot more.
For sure.
All right. So Sunday night, Bob Costas goes on just a tirade here, and so let's listen to it.
I don't know. Can you call what he did? Okay, well, we'll get to that in a minute. But tirade seems
a homily.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a tirade either.
Yeah. A sports homily.
All right, here we go. You ready?
We're ready.
All right.
Back now in Kansas City. For those of you too busy keeping up with the Kardashians to notice, we live in a culture that in many ways grows more stupid and graceless by the moment. Sports both reflects and influences that trend, so on playing fields everywhere, true style is in decline, while mindless exhibitionism abounds. In the late 60s, the Giants had a receiver named Homer Jones. He invented the spike, and it was great. A simple, elegant punctuation that somehow has devolved into this. Given the tone of the times, it's probably too much to expect that most players would appreciate that back in the day, this guy was much cooler than this guy, or that there's a difference between spontaneous and or good-natured displays of enthusiasm and calculated displays of obnoxious self-indulgence. No, that train has already gone so far down the wrong track, there's probably no turning back. So our suggestion here is a more modest one. Hey, knuckleheads, is it too much to ask that you confine your buffoonery to situations that don't directly damage your team? Week after week, game after game, we see guys who think nothing of incurring penalties for unsportsmanlike conduct, costing their teams valuable yardage, even late in close games. Today's most conspicuous culprit, Buffalo's Stevie Johnson, who after a TD catch versus the Jets, thought it would be a good idea to go Marcel Marceau, pantomiming, among other things, Plexico Burress shooting himself in the leg. But in this case, it was Johnson who shot himself in the foot, as his display cost his team a 15-yard penalty on the ensuing kickoff. And given a short field, the Jets proceeded to score in a critical game that wound up 28-24 New York. Which raises this question. Where are the coaches in all this? Guys are routinely benched or called out for blown assignments. When is a coach going to make an overdue statement and sit a guy down on the grounds of pure selfishness and unprofessionalism detrimental to his team? By the way, late in the loss to the Jets, Johnson dropped a pass that could have led to a Buffalo win. Shockingly, he didn't follow it with a rehearsed "my bad" dance of apology. Maybe he just forgot. Back with the second half from Kansas City after the...
Okay.
See, for Bob Costas, that's a tirade. He doesn't get all flustered and everything, but that's a tirade. Here's the extreme irony in all of this. Okay, Stevie Johnson does this touchdown dance mocking Plaxico Burress, who on the ensuing drive for the Jets catches the touchdown pass. The game-winning touchdown pass for the Jets caught by Santonio Holmes. Burress and Holmes, both guys who have been suspended by the league for prior off-the-field things. So you got Costas talking about knuckleheads for Stevie Johnson doing something stupid on the field. The two big players for the Jets, two guys that did stupid things off the field.
Yeah. Well, for me, the issue is the on-the-field stuff here.
Yes.
So,
yes.
I mean, we could go through the personal lives of people. I think that part of what interests me in this story is that I love sports. Growing up, I played a lot of basketball, other things as well, but basketball mainly. And my feeling is that you can do it and have fun, competitive games and not be a jerk about it.
Right.
And that's what I see this stuff. I so loved what Costas said here.
Yeah.
And especially to where it cost your team 15 yards.
Yeah.
Come on. I mean, not only are you satisfying yourself, but you're doing it at the expense of the team.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I like Costas calling out coaches. Where are the coaches in this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Set them down.
In college this year, they added that penalty. That if you start celebrating before you cross the goal line or do excessive, and I don't believe I've seen any videos, and it's a different game in college, but I don't think I've seen any videos of players getting penalized for that. But you're right. I mean, the coaches got to say, Stevie Johnson legitimately could have cost his team a playoff spot because that loss kind of put him out of contention. So,
yeah, were you going to say something, Steven?
Yeah. I'm curious if we know or don't know where the coaches are in this. I mean, how do we know what took place behind closed doors with Stevie Johnson after that game?
Yeah, true.
That's not going to be publicized. That's not going to be broadcast. So I think it's easy to point out the obvious, and that's where Heath's argument comes in as well. Is why would Costas why wouldn't he point out the irony of this on-field celebration and knucklehead action, but the things that are happening in life don't make the same cut as far as production value at halftime to me. And the NFL, every commentator has been famously applauding celebrations, and it gets footage, it gets coverage time, and so it's kind of a weird.
No, you raise a great point because the camera will be right there in their face.
Exactly, they're hoping for that. They're instantly. We find out how much the fine is going to be for so and so for pulling a stunt in the end zone. I saw that live, and I agreed with him. But then I instantly started deciphering what I was watching was a bit, that has been written and that has been produced, and that is kind of. I mean, I don't know.
Joe Gorlong says in the chat room, this thing continues year after year, so obviously the coaches are doing nothing about it. Yeah. You agree with that?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if they're not doing anything. I mean, how many head-to-head hits happen year after year, and the guys are getting fined, and it's still happening because it's not as big of an issue for them as it is for people.
Well, something is happening though. On that, they're paying big dollars if they choose to do that.
But then they're doing it again because they have the big dollars to pay for it.
Here's the thing: Stevie Johnson's coach is Chan Gailey. If Mike Ditka were his coach, would not have happened. I mean, because the coach sets a tone for the team of what's acceptable and what's not. And I just think, I don't. Terry Gailey may be a great guy, but he's not a great coach, and he's kind of lost his team. Another big story in NFL. You had the kid from, I can't pronounce his first name, but the defensive lineman for the Lions, Sue, who just got suspended 2 games for stomping a guy.
Yeah. And he should have been suspended.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. And then for blatantly saying that he didn't do anything.
I didn't do it. I think what they've got to do is what Roger Goodell did on the suitcase was right on. He's got to call Stevie Johnson like, listen, that's 200,000 big ones, because that's embarrassing to the NFL, because they certainly don't want him bringing up the fact that one of their players shot himself in the leg at a nightclub and went to prison.
Yeah. Well, here again, part of my interest in this story is that if we are consistent with our own belief as believers, as Christians, I do believe in a theology of grace that says we can live down our past.
Yes.
And so it shouldn't be on public display in the end zone.
Right.
Yes. And Plexico, give him credit. He caught the touchdown pass, right in the next series of plays.
And loved, I'm not a big Plexico Burress fan, even before all this stuff happened. But I loved his response to, he was kind of like, Stevie can do what he wants, but, he did drop the game-winning pass, and he needs to work on being a better receiver.
Yeah, exactly.
I loved it.
Exactly. Hey, did you guys recognize the 2 players that Bob Costas, from the past, that he pointed out? He said, believe it or not, this guy was more popular than this guy. Did you know the 2 players?
Barry Sanders and Mark Gastineau.
Yeah, and I remember
both.
People hated Gastineau.
Oh yeah.
And now his behavior has become commonplace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We know another player who was well respected and one of the most popular players ever is a guy named Emmitt Smith. Emmitt Smith, when he would score, he scored a lot of touchdowns in his career. I believe he's still the league leader in rushing touchdowns. But he would take his he would score. He would take his helmet off. He would just walk to the sidelines. He wouldn't do a dance. But they banned that.
And the ball would go into a trunk. He kept every touchdown.
He kept every football. That's right.
He did. Yep. All right. Well, let's move on here. So let's talk a little bit. We're the technology show. We like gadgets and tech things. And so I thought, let's put our heads together here and just talk about some things that we might recommend that we think are good tech gifts. Right now,
for Christmas. So, I'm going to put up our good little. Just help us get into the holiday mood.
Look at that snow coming out. So I'll start us out here. Right now, you're seeing some great prices. I saw a 32-inch Toshiba 720p flat panel television for $200, but. It's not internet ready. Well, if you go out and buy a Roku, a $49 Roku, you're internet ready.
Well, let's explain what that is. It's this little box, not very big at all, that connects up to your home internet connection and lets you access things like Netflix, Amazon streaming. I think Twit Network's got a channel on the Roku box. All kinds of
Hulu.
There you go. Hulu, all kinds of little things.
We use our Roku every single day.
So you have a Roku.
We do.
Yeah.
I had a Roku, but I got some antibiotics and some cream and took care of it.
$49. It's a good price. And another thing I would recommend if you are a jogger or a runner, second generation iPod Shuffle.
Question: Roku, how to spell it?
ROKU.
ROKU.
All right. ROKU.
ROKU. For walking, jogging, the second generation iPod Shuffle, I have been, I don't know how many times I've been running in the rain. It's never, no issues. My wife works for a gentleman who twice has forgotten his in his running gear, and she's washed it twice. And it works fine. Not that we're recommending that, but I had an MP3 player that lasted me 9 months. It trashed out. I put on Facebook, hey, anyone have any recommendations? Matthew.
Yeah, I recommended that little thing. At the time, they came out with the one that had no buttons at all, and you had to use the wire on the head.
That's the third generation.
Yeah, that was horrible. They are now, the fourth generation is back to actually having buttons on the device. So I would say along with your second generation one, if you want to get something a little bit newer that has a bit bigger storage, you could go with the most current iPod shuffle. But I bet that you can find the second generation a little bit cheaper in some different...
I've got it linked here. I'm $50 all day long for refurbished ones.
Yeah, I think the non-refurbished like $75 or $79, something
price.
like that. Yeah.
All right, some of you guys jump in here.
One of the things I put on here for people who have kids is last year we got all our kids Leapfrog handheld games. This year Leapfrog's come out with the Leapfrog tablet, which kids can actually play. The great thing about it that really is kind of pushing me toward it is it plays all the old games. The games we got for their old systems, it'll play those games as well. But it's basically like an iPad for kids. I think it's right around $100, maybe a little bit cheaper. But if you're looking for a cool gift for your kids, and it's all for education. It's all It's all educational.
Love it.
Well, in this green day in which we live, I've got something I want to recommend. It absolutely is fantastic for all ages, for the family. You can use it in many venues. All biodegradable, low carbon footprint.
Where is this going?
Low draw.
I'm wondering the same
thing. Listen now. It's just fantastic. It's called a book. Okay? I just want to recommend that along with your Kindle and along with your PDF files and all of this stuff that's good and useful, go out and buy a good old look at that man's shelf right behind him.
Is this like a new gadget that they just came out with?
Well, for some folk, I think,
someone in the chat room wants to know how to spell that.
You go to Amazon and you use Huck's Defeat as the person who get all the shells.
Well, thank you, Steve.
Really, I mean, there are tons of things out there that books are written on, and you'll have the best. I've sat at the feet of the greatest.
This from a man who as a kid used to sit and read the Thesaurus.
I have sat at the feet of the greatest thinkers in the world and read their unvarnished. I ain't at your feet yet, but I'm pretty down. I'm pretty far down on the totem pole. I know, and you can spend hours with them. You can go back and refresh. They don't have to have perfect memory because it's recorded perfectly. Just. Little something for my friends.
Love it. All right.
That took a long time.
Steven, what you got for our listeners, man?
We just upgraded our car GPS. We've been rocking a GPS now for 3 years. An old Garmin Nuvi, probably a first gen Nuvi. I have no idea what the model number was, but my biggest complaint about GPS systems has always been how expensive it is to get new maps. So Garmin has heard that, I think, and all the other guys probably have too, and now they're producing these lifetime map purchased GPSs. So we just got a Garmin 50 LM, which is a 2012 model, and it's a 5-inch screen compared to the old 3-inch screen. It is incredible. It's awesome, and it's a base model. It's just over $100, and we're loving it. If anybody is looking for an upgrade for somebody that is traveling a lot with the GPS,
Heath and
I would suggest that.
Heath and I have a question for you on this, though. It's something that we were pondering in the show preparation. Why do people need a dedicated GPS
instead of their phone?
Right.
Yeah, I have the same argument that I thought I would never have to get another GPS, that I would always use my phone. But I use my phone for a lot of other things instead of GPS. That having my GPS tethered to my window versus having my phone tethered to the window to look at makes a lot more sense for me.
So when you say other things, you're talking about like texting and driving, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, my wife, has told me that what she wants for what she wants for Christmas is a GPS. I've assured her that, even though we've moved 4 times in the last 3 years, that we're not moving again anytime soon, and that she can learn. But so I'm thinking I may take your recommendation and look at this. Well,
make sure you use my affiliate link.
Yes, I will do that. I will do that. We're real quick. You're talking about GPS, and you're talking about unlimited maps. Some of the most fun I ever had in youth ministry was getting the atlas out and figuring out the route we were going to take on our mission trip. And I think the young people today, they just miss out on that. All they do is type in some letters.
You get that
and
now.
Numbers.
If you go to Google Maps, it'll give you 3 routes to choose.
No, that's not the same.
Hold on.
Not the same.
Choose the walking route.
Now, however, I will say the atlas got us in some trouble as we decided that going from Rapid City, South Dakota, to Central through Bartlesville, Oklahoma, was the quickest route home. It was not.
You need to stop your whining, because when Steve was going on Covered Wagon, it was all about the stars, the constellations. That's right.
This is true.
No, we were Christian. We didn't go by the stars. Praise God.
Good comeback, Steve.
I didn't know that Steve's family were the Rand McNallys. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. That's incredible. Hey, my other suggestion, tech-wise, gadget-wise, nobody's talked about it yet. The Kindle Fire, I think, would be the entry-level tablet for a family interested in getting into the tablet game.
Totally agree.
$199. That's low end of anything, and it's Amazon, for goodness sake. You're not buying I know you are buying a piece of foreign technology, but still, it's not a no-name foreign piece of technology.
Lean in real close, and I've got something to tell you. I bought my wife one for her birthday.
Did you really?
Yeah,
a Fire?
Yeah, Kindle Fire.
Oh, that's awesome. Do you have it yet? Have you played with it?
I haven't played with it. It came in a box. If I open it, it's like I didn't buy it for. I've got to let her open it.
That's absolutely right. That's something, guys, gadget guys.
Of course,
don't open your wife's.
Of course,
gifts.
now, Lady Annabella makes it really look interesting. That tablet.
Wait! Did Ashley open up her touchpad?
Hey, wait! Wasn't I talking here?
No, but that's before she wanted it.
Wait a
I'm
minute.
invisible again, aren't I?
Can I get a dashboard mount for a Kindle Fire? Does it have maps?
You can get it, I'm sure. Out there in Oakway. You ask
Drake, hold this while I drive.
At any rate.
What is this spherical flying machine?
Have you not clicked on that link yet?
Oh goodness! Well, hold on. Let's be serious a minute longer, because I've got a couple serious.
All right,
what
go
are you
ahead.
Being serious. I'm being serious. There's
$9.95.
An asterisk next to that, but I'm being serious.
To go along with Tony's running theme, $9.95 will get you the best little set of earphones that are about known to man. They're called J-Buds from J-Lab. They've got J-Lab's got about like 3 or 4 different models of them now, but the oldest model, the cheapest ones, I think are the best. I've played around with a newer one. I think you've had a newer model too.
Where do you buy them?
Yeah. What do you? Amazon. What do you? What do you think about the newer ones as compared to that oldest model?
I actually like the newer ones better.
Okay.
I guess it's a matter of taste. But you put me
you're
on
not supposed to stick them in your mouth, son. You put them in your ears.
I think
it's a matter of taste.
Yeah, you put me on J-Buds a couple years ago.
And I think the reason that I like the oldest ones too are that you can open up the housing. You can open up the housing on these things, and if you wanted to, like, say that your phone came with a really good set of earphones, like, for example, the iPhone comes with one that's got a remote control on it. I can't get those things to stay in my ears. I can't wear that kind of earphone. Well, you can pop off those ends, and if you really wanted to get technical, you can solder the ends of these J-Labs right onto those wires and have all the microphone and controls and all that. It's really handy and really cool. So that's one thing on the cheap end of things that I like. Another thing that I would recommend, if you've got somebody who likes to do, if somebody that likes to do a little bit of graphic editing, not just like red eye touch up, but likes to tinker around in Photoshop a little bit, little bamboo Wacom tablet. Those are the handiest things for
what
photo
kind of price
editing.
range?
You're talking about $60 to $100, depending on what you get. There are, of course, ones that run into the thousands of dollars for ultra professionals. But I've got just this little. It's one of their cheapest ones. This little bamboo Wacom tablet. It comes with a pen and. I use it all the time when I'm doing graphic work, when I'm doing editing. It's so much easier to do that kind of stuff rather than using a mouse. There's something more natural using a pencil or something in your hand in that way when it comes to cutting around things and being very precise. They're just great little things to have. So that's one thing. Something that I'm interested in that I don't have and I haven't used, and it scared me because I saw an infomercial on one, and that got me thinking that maybe it may not be as great as I think it is the Neat Receipt scanner. I've wanted to try one of those to where I could be faithful to collecting all of my receipts, throwing those through the scanner. Then it puts those into spreadsheets. It actually knows, okay, this is a receipt, and it figures out what to do with that and calculates and tabulates it all. That looks really interesting to me and something that I definitely have interest in.
One thing, I don't mean to get off subject, but as far as the Neat Receipts, I've also been wanting one of those. We're trying to go paperless, and I downloaded Scan Drop. It's an app for Macs, and I've just been scanning those in, and with into Evernote, which you can search PDF. So even if I scan in like a receipt, it's still searchable.
Yeah, and that's what Neat Receipts does. It turns that piece of paper into a searchable, and if it's a financial, it'll do other pieces of paper. Like a Neat Receipt scanner doesn't just handle receipts, but it'll turn documents into that. But then it does make them searchable PDFs, and it says, okay, so this receipt says that you spent X amount of dollars, and it'll calculate all the sales tax that you've paid and all the it'll put it all together, and really is kind of a cool thing as to how it calculates. And it'll even, like, if it knows it's a receipt, like say from a restaurant, it'll categorize how much money you've spent at restaurants, how much money you spent at the hardware store, blah blah blah, depending on what you've got there as far as the receipt goes. So cool. It's just a handy little thing, but I've not tried one, so I can't speak for how well it works or doesn't work. I really don't know. And like I said, I saw an infomercial on TV over Thanksgiving, and that kind of had me a little bit worried because usually infomercial products are like that. But long before they had an infomercial, they had been making these things. So I don't know what the deal is with that. Anyways.
All right.
So now on to the spherical flying machine created by the Japanese Ministry of Defense. Go ahead, Steven. Take us away.
Tell us why we need this.
It's incredible. It's like this. I wish you could show the video.
Yeah, I'll have to work on that. We should have you download.
It is a small. I don't know if it's small, but it's some kind of sphere. It's probably out of like the Harry Potter movies or something. It's incredible. It's this ball that will hover. It's got airplane propellers built inside of it, and I didn't know Japan had a Ministry of Defense to create cool stuff like this. But
I see it now. I've got it pulled up.
The video that I saw, this thing comes out of this little shell and flies over the audience, and it can hit the ground and roll, and then lift right back up off the ground.
I'm working on it here for us, guys.
You watching that?
Well, I'm downloading it right now so that we can show our listeners so that they can be as well informed as you are.
Incidentally, I do that very same thing every Sunday when I come out on the platform. So
you roll around on the ground.
That's it, and then I'm up in the air before the thing's over. Yep.
Steve is the original holy roller. Right
there.
Oh my goodness gracious!
All right, here we go.
Have a ball.
We just got called out in the chat room for having a Harry Potter reference.
Matthew has it. He's got it.
So hold on here just a second.
There's a lot of
Costas removed here.
There's a lot of introductory stuff right at the beginning, like the first 10
sadly,
to 30 seconds.
We should have had this prepared in advance so that we wouldn't. So
No.
That's right. That's fine. That's fine. Just let it go. It's about 10, 20 seconds here, and then you'll be able to see.
Let's turn the snow off too. That'll help us.
This is the world's first spherical flying machine, developed by the Research Department at Japan's Ministry of Defense.
Whoa!
This machine can hover like a helicopter and take off and land vertically.
Benny Hinn will have
But because it works like a propeller plane standing vertically, it can fly forward at high speed using wings, which a helicopter can't do. This machine also has 3 gyro sensors, so even if it hits an obstacle, it can maintain its attitude and keep flying through automatic control.
Huh.
Yeah, I won't.
No kidding. That looks
listen, just think of this for the whole in the Christmas scene with the shepherds and the angels. Put a robe on that sucker and bring it up.
Did that say that because it's round, it can land in all kind of attitudes? It's feeling a little angry today, but it's going to be able to land. Are you in a good mood today? Oh, I'm so depressed.
That looks like something straight out of sci-fi right there. I mean, it really does. Like Spark 343 or whatever. Guilty Spark, whatever that thing was called, out of that Halo game.
That's what I'm saying.
Steven, can we get that through an affiliate link of yours?
I'm actually producing them here in the church
Some televangelists will be going,
All right. Well, those are some of our gadget picks for the holiday season. Let's move on to...
No, stop! He was almost ready.
Not ready for prime time.
Tony, your computer's acting weird.
I'm
slow. We're
sorry.
gonna need to do some work on this thing.
We'll use Heath's computer next time.
No, I'd suggest Steve's. Let's use Steve's. All right, so download of the week this week. Here, take one of these so that you can throw it up in front of your camera. Is a search engine. Now, I realize it's hard to get away from Google, but here is a search engine called DuckDuckGo. DuckDuckGo.com. Now, why are we even talking about this, and why is it even important? Well, first of all, it's important because I've got 3 stickers for DuckDuckGo that I'll give away to people in a way like, I don't know, I guess whoever begs the hardest. But more importantly than that, DuckDuckGo lets you do, searches just like Google or whatever, but it's keeps you totally private. In other words, it doesn't track your search history. It doesn't log your search history based on your IP address or whatever it may be. It also doesn't put you in what's called a search bubble. This is something that I found out about recently that kind of got me a little bit interested and a little bit hairy with Google searches. After a while, whether you're signed into a Google account or not, after a while, you will begin to be put in this search bubble where it begins to tailor search results based on what it thinks that you're going to want the most. So particularly in searching for news stories, if you're looking for current events and things like that, like say that somehow, you had somebody living in your home that was really a huge fan of Glenn Beck. All right, I won't name names. But let's just say that somebody had been using a computer in your home, really like Glenn Beck. Well, then all your search results are going to start to show up in a slant relating towards Glenn Beck and because it thinks that that's what you want. Well, DuckDuckGo will give you a search result not based on that, but based on what is actually the most current or appropriate topic or the most clicked topic, whatever it may be, to show you what's at the forefront of it, what everybody else is doing. So it's it's no Google. There's not all the services that Google has. But as far as searches, and I'm not going to say that I'll probably use DuckDuckGo every day, but like if I'm looking for that type of thing, that current event type of thing, this is where I'll go. They've got they've integrated ways right into their site. Like if you use the Chrome browser for it to make that your default search engine, if you wanted to, along with other devices and things, you can set it up that way. But DuckDuckGo.com is. And I realize it's not technically a download. They have an app that you can download. If you want to really get technical about it, your browser will cache some of the files there, so you will be downloading some things from the site as you use DuckDuckGo. But that is my recommendation.
This has to be the libertarian search engine.
I'm telling you.
It has to be.
This is the thing that's built for Steve. I've heard Steve talk about these things. That's why I bring it to you today, because this is for you, Steve.
Steve, this is your search engine.
Don't say I never did anything for you.
You need to start using DuckDuckGo. Is that a yes or no?
I do. Look at my hair, what it's done for my hair. I use it every morning in the shower.
No, that's butch wax that you're using.
Oh, man.
All right. Well, let's move on to They Said It.
Read my lips.
I'm going to say this again.
I've never taken steroids or HGH.
I took the initiative in creating the internet.
The Macintosh, of all the machines I've ever seen, is the only one that meets that standard.
I'm not a crook.
If you know what you're doing here, slide out.
They're trying to make it seem like I am unfit, like I don't love my child. Of course I love him. Of course I want him to lose weight. It is very hard, but I'm trying. The mother of a Cleveland, Ohio third grader responding after her son was taken from her and placed in foster care for weighing over 200 pounds. Source, Yahoo News.
The Salvation Army has a history of active discrimination against gays and lesbians. While you might think you're helping the hungry and homeless by dropping a few dollars in the bright red buckets, not everyone can share in the donations. This was Bill Browning speaking for some lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgendered rights advocates who are calling on people to boycott the Salvation Army's red Christmas donation bucket. Source, Huffington Post.
It will become a true center for our Catholic community in Orange County. Bishop Todd D. Brown explaining how the Catholic Diocese would use its recent purchase of the Crystal Cathedral. Source, ABC News.
When my husband and I first saw the brick Bible at Sam's Club, we thought, what a fantastic idea for our nephews to have for Christmas. I flipped through the book, and when I got home, went straight to the website in hopes to see if there were more stories. This is where it all went downhill for me. While the website does have a content warning on it, I feel the paraphrase of the Bible stories are not age-appropriate and should be identified both on the website and the book itself. This is from Tabitha Grace, a consumer who was initially excited about the brick Bible, unofficially called the Lego Bible, until she learned of the graphic nature of the scenes depicted within. Source, WorldNet Daily.
All right, Heath, let's jump up to your story here. So, I'm really curious, Steve, what you think from a libertarian point of view, too. So you have this third grader, they're 200 pounds, the state has stepped in, and now they're in foster care because they feel like the child's just too obese, and, you know.
Now, by comparison, both of my girls are in third grade, and they're between 60 and 70 pounds. So just to give you a point of comparison, this kid was over 200 pounds. I don't know if I agree. I don't know what, I mean, what, I don't know that I agree with what they did. Matter of fact, I'm almost sure I don't agree with what they did.
Good man.
It could be, could be a medical condition. It could be a lot of things. I mean, to think that this mother's just got him on a Duncan Hines IV all the time, I mean, or is abusing him. You know what I mean? I don't know.
There was another similar story not many months ago. They took the child away. The state took the child away, kept the child for 6 months. It was just as heavy when it came back to its parents as when it left.
Wow.
If you want to make available to them a program or something that will help, or you want to pay for tests to diagnose if there's a metabolic problem with the child, I don't have a problem with that. But it ought to enrage every parent, because today it's the fact that this kid is morbidly obese that the state then thinks empowers them to take the child. But tomorrow, if you're teaching your child values that mainstream culture does not approve, they can do the same thing. We are setting up scenarios that will be played out against people of different points of view in subsequent years. I don't think it's that far off.
What's let's just go a little hypothetical. Let's say this family goes to your church. What's the church's response? As far as the state's response was to come in and say no and take the kid away. I believe the church should say, hey, you know, this isn't, what can we do to help as far as education and what are your guys' thoughts on that as far as the church's response to a situation like this? I'm not talking about the response to what the state did, but the response to
the child
a third grader weighing 200 pounds.
Yeah. Well, I think the response is very clear. You whisper about the parents behind their back, and you don't invite their kids over to sit on your furniture. Oh, wait, I was talking about what is. I think what you do is the same thing. Before the state gets there ought to be conversation. What's wrong with little Johnny? You know, this is not good for him, and this is not something that we would typically expect to see. How can we help? And there ought to be a community of people for accountability and for assistance, whichever of the two is needed in whatever degree.
Well, and you also have to face the fact that in some cases parents might quickly dismiss. What I mean by that is they may give all kinds of explanations, well, things I've done in the past, whatever. And so, I mean, we have two issues here. One is this issue, can the church play a role? And I would say the possibility is that they can, but only to the extent that the parent will allow that. Right. From the legal side of this is very disturbing to me because I think you've hit the nail on the head here, Steve. That is, okay, well, what if they decide tomorrow that they don't like the Christian community's approach to some Christians' approach to evolution and questioning certain things. And what if someone says, some psychologist comes along and says, well, we think this is detrimental to their development.
Just go to Proposition 8 and remember how the decision was worded.
Yeah.
That we are the ones that are creating harm, a situation of harm.
Yeah. Prop 8, this was the prop out in California to...
marriage between a man and a woman.
Right.
That's what it was.
To define marriage,
right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I read, not the whole thing, but the decision was 108 pages or thereabout. And clearly, Christians were viewed as ones who just didn't have the right opinion on this. And so anything that they would enter in as evidence to support their view, the judge... quickly dismissed. I mean, quickly dismissed. And he just wouldn't allow it.
But my main objection was he said that those who have the opinions we have about marriage are actively perpetrating harm on society and on people who don't agree with us just by holding those opinions. Now, carry it forward. Let us go for the extreme so that you can see this. You don't. The shadow of a pin is small here, but there it'll cover the whole wall. Yeah. And at its most extreme, you can envision a culture that has been immersed in this kind of thinking, and we are still teaching our children what the Bible teaches. Yeah. And we're now the ones perpetrating harm. We are damaging that child. We're not giving that child an opportunity to grow up and then make its own mind. We are tainting it and helping it to become a positive harm on society. So I just think there are 1,000 things to not like about this. And is there a place, is there a role even for government? Yes, I believe. But it is not in co-opting the rights of the parent here.
Sumter in the chat room is saying that the state had been actively involved in trying to help the boy for a year and a half prior to taking this step. So there may be more to the story. Let me just say real quick, I don't want to get off topic, but along the same lines of, who decides how much a kid is supposed to weigh? In San Francisco, they've outlawed the Happy Meals. You can't give a toy away with a Happy Meal. And they've set these standards for fast food restaurants as to the food they can serve children. Mm-hmm. Guess what? The San Francisco public schools don't even meet those standards. So here's the thing. This kid's in 3rd grade. He's going to school every day. He's eating food that may be contributing to the fact that he weighs 200 pounds. I go eat lunch with my kids all the time, and let me tell you, it is utter pig slop. I mean, it is. It is not even.
These views, the views of Heath Mulliken Incorporated, and not necessarily representing the views of the show.
Let me tell you, now lately, this year they've made a lot of changes. This year, they have really tried to get healthy, and this year the meals have been a lot better. But times when I would go last year, I'm like, this is not very.
Is there anything else you want to say before we shut off your mic? Real quick. All right, well, let's move on. We've talked that story to death. The Salvation Army story, this was disturbing to me. You have some, and I put some here on purpose because it's not all, but some lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender groups, rights advocate people are making noise about Salvation Army, and what they say is no, these funds that they're raising, they only go to help some people. I've seen Salvation Army at a local level. The most down here, the one I've been active with, some I've seen up close, is the Salvation Army in Anderson, South Carolina. And I can tell you this: when people come in and they have need, there's not a form they're filling.
You put me onto this statement I had missed in the original article. It's by Jeffrey Kernow, the Public and Corporate Relations Manager for Salvation Army, defending the position of the Salvation Army to the Chicagoist. And he said, I appreciate the opportunity to correct the record when it does come up. In fact, the Salvation Army serves countless people across the country every day from any variety of backgrounds, including gays and lesbians. This number probably reaches into the thousands, though it is impossible for us to determine, primarily because we would simply never ask about a person's sexual identity. Because the Salvation Army is a church, we do have theological positions on a variety of topics. These positions are intended for our church members or those who are interested in our church. Just as you wouldn't expect everyone you meet to share all your ideas or beliefs, we would never expect everyone we help, our donors or even our non-church member employees, to necessarily agree with these theological positions, end quote.
Great. Just a great response here.
Well written response, or well quoted, yeah.
Yeah. And so I think, well, I know the thing that upsets me about this is that they are simply implying something that's not true.
Yes.
Clearly. And one of the things that Salvation Army has been praised for in my lifetime is its ability to get need to the people. And when you compare the Salvation Army and what it costs them to help people, it is drastically lower than the government.
Right.
Can I ask, I don't want to play stupid. I just want to ask a question about this.
We know it wouldn't be playing.
It says Bill Browning speaking for some LGBT rights advocates. How do you? I guess my question is
the word "some" I put in, okay? Because I know better than this. This is just my point.
He was the go-to guy for the Huffington Post and these other guys.
Gotcha. Okay.
So he is obviously some kind of a spokesman for some portion of the gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgendered community.
There is always a response from the other side where you see stuff like this, and there would be some gay and lesbian rights groups that would say, "Wait a minute, he doesn't speak for us on this issue."
Right.
And so I wanted to make it clear in the quote, he's not speaking for every rights advocacy group out there on that issue.
He's not their spokesperson.
Yeah. All right, Heath. So it was you that brought it to my attention. The Cathedral is sold.
I actually found the original story. I found, I believe, was on Fox. It was the daughter of. Or the Schuler son who took over after the dad, his wife, he was the one voted out by his siblings, and his wife is the one that wrote the article that said, this could have all been prevented if we had taken this step and taken this step. And we talked about Crystal Cathedral on here before, that they were in just so much debt, and they had a lot of different people bidding on their building, and the judge did rule that the bid from the Catholic diocese was accepted.
They turned down a higher bid from educational institution.
Right. And it is just, this...
it's the end of an era.
Right. We're talking, this has all happened, over the last 2, maybe 3 years, as far as Schuler, the Robert Schuler Sr. stepping down, and it was just boom. But it was problems that were building.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with their ministry and with his books?
Yes.
All right. Does this now mean that all those people who bloomed where they were planted have to be transplanted?
Does this also?
That was one of his.
And we don't think that you sound stupid on that.
And this is, Robert Schuler, one of the great proponents of the prosperity gospel. Yeah. What does this mean, that he could not even pay for his own?
Although not as radical as some have been, but yes.
Well, his was more positive thinking.
Yes.
Right.
And he's done a lot of good. Don't take from him what he's done. But the answer is not in these formulas or programs that we come up with from time to time. They serve a purpose. They are tools. But all of us one day are going to be entered into the earth unless Jesus comes first. And our ministry, no one's going to think about our sermons. They don't think about them after 12:30 anyhow,
Well, there was just a lot. I remember when the Crystal Cathedral came about, a lot of talk about the opulence. Is this really necessary? And, eventually
it's not.
Yeah, and eventually the point is this, that you have a ministry that couldn't sustain itself financially.
Yeah.
And it was very personality driven. And once that personality was off the scene.
My wife claims I'm that kind of person, too.
Uh-huh. But anytime,
like
a lot of their debt came from their Christmas program. And they were in debt, so much to people, to Camel.
Yeah, the livestock really charged a lot.
Yeah.
They will not work for peanuts anymore.
Have any of you ever worshipped at the Crystal Cathedral?
No.
You?
Have you?
Yeah, I did once.
Wow.
A few years ago, my cousin Brock was married out there, and we went to early service at the Crystal Cathedral and late service at Saddleback, so that I could experience California.
What a day! What a day!
Wow.
Yeah.
It was incredible. It was like 4th of July weekend or something. So Larnell Harris, I believe, is his name.
Yeah.
Cool.
Led worship that morning at the Crystal Cathedral.
Wow.
Now, did Schuler wear his robe? Because I've never seen him without the robe.
He did.
Well, let's hope not.
All right.
Moving right along.
Let's quickly. Let's get to this final one. I don't know how many of you have heard of the Brick Bible, but it just seems really nice because it's an illustrated Bible, and all the scenes are illustrated with Lego toys. But what you have to keep in mind about this is that the author of this is an atheist, and he. Brendan Smith's an atheist, and what he does is he takes these brutal scenes of the Old Testament or sexually explicit scenes of the Old Testament, and he has them depicted. And so what Steven read is someone who bumbled along at Sam's and thought, wow, this is a great kids' Bible, and then went home, looked on the internet, and found these disturbing illustrated scenes. And so this is just out there for, FYI. The Brick Bible, sometimes called the Lego Bible, this is by an atheist, and I don't think Sam's Club had a clue.
Yeah. If you go to the Brick Bible website, at the bottom, the guy calls himself the Reverend, whatever. You can click that. It takes you to his website. Once you're to his website, you kind of realize this is the person behind that. And don't get me wrong, I think it's a very creative idea, but you quickly... he talks about the story of Abraham sacrificing Isaac and would God ask you to do that? And then if you click on that link, it takes you to one of the stories where wipe out everybody, And so he is coming from a very slanted.
This is right out of the Hitchens School and the Dawkins School of seek and destroy, and let's just tear down faith.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, it's not just that, though. It's not just a recitation of the story. It's putting a spin on it, setting it in a frame that divorces it from what's really going on there. Yeah, and so it's a mischaracterization of the message of Scripture, of the face and heart of God.
All right, let's zoom on to our final story. We always try to end with something that is riveting and can really, I don't even know, man.
It changed your life.
Yeah,
I wish we had one of those hovering balls that would come through the air about now. It would really.
Well, there's this little restaurant called Eaton Park, okay? In Penn Hills, and as the customers are there eating, a 15-pound wild turkey, get this, on Thanksgiving Day, busts through the big window they have in the front there, and the turkey dies. So, I don't know what else to call it other than the revenge of the turkeys on Thanksgiving Day.
Goodness.
This turkey gave its life willingly.
And we have no video of it, but there will be turkey served in the other room a little later on.
It came with its own instant gravy.
We've posted this story. It's crazy, especially for it to happen on Thanksgiving Day.
There's a good chance, by the way, that I've eaten at that Eaton Park in Penn Hills. That's Pittsburgh.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, listen. Hey, maybe you could go there and do some on-site reporting. See if you can find any blood on the floor. Interview the people that were there.
No, all you need to do is go in a turkey suit and gobble a couple of times, and people are screaming head out. Apparently, this thing just wreaked havoc everywhere, didn't it?
It was, but it was closed. The restaurant, right?
Yeah, but I'm saying it just tore up Jack.
Oh, I didn't know it was. Yes, it was. Except, the restaurant was closed. Okay, I saw the footage of this, but when I say footage, it's not flying through the window. The news crew was there. The window is gone, and they pan over to the turkey. It's laying dead. Shards of glass everywhere.
Had they put the chalk outline around it yet?
Colonel Sanders was there on site.
Oh man! All right, hey, listen. Next week, I want to remind you that we have Dr. Joanne Lang with us, General Superintendent of the Wesleyan Church.
Your guests. That's awesome.
Our schedule is awesome from here on out.
Let me just say,
from here on out.
That's it.
Thanks, Devin.
I didn't mean it that way.
What a do-wrong.
Last week, or 1 week, Scott Simmons watch the show from headquarters, and the broadband has been upgraded at headquarters.
Yeah, they're doing a test call with me tomorrow to make sure we have the bandwidth from headquarters. So
cool. People at Wesleyan headquarters, when you get on your internet today and it doesn't bog down, you thank the Technology Show.
We played a part about a year ago.
Yes. It was a year ago that we had
this month making that happen. So
I had nothing to do with it. Nothing at all.
2 weeks from today in studio will be Dr. Dodd. Dr. Dodd. How about Dr. Todd Voss, president of Southern Wesleyan University.
And you'll be out of rehab just about the time.
All the drugs got to be on machine. January 4th, Mark Batterson will be with us.
Tony sees things flying through the air even without that ball in the studio.
January 12th, Kem Meyer. Now, get this on your calendar. Kem Meyer is the author of Less Clutter, Less Noise. And
great book.
We are doing a Thursday
book
podcast. What?
Book. I said book. Great book, that is. Really
on
it is.
On Kindle.
Well, I have the one in living color.
We're going to do a Thursday podcast. It'll be at 1 Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. That is because we have some obligations that Wednesday, and also she can't do a Wednesday morning, so that's going to work out. So January 12th that week. January 18th, Chad McCullum will be with us, going to talk to us about church planting and get into some of the nuts and bolts of that. Also, we have a book giveaway. Now, we're still waiting for organics. We have 2 copies that are ordered. I continue to check Amazon. Abington doesn't have them out yet. You can get his book on the Kindle. That is out. But we've got 2 physical copies we'll be giving away. Also, we're giving away Pocket Full of Questions by Donna Witten. I think that we've probably had 7 or 8 of you now that have are entered into the drawing. And if you'd like to be part of the drawing for those 3 books, one of those 3 books, just tag the show.
Let's talk about how cool this is for a second. The Organics was not offered in a Kindle edition before our show. We talked about this. We had people go to the site and let the publisher know that we wanted a Kindle version. Now there's a Kindle version.
That's what's wrong with us today. We're drunk with power, aren't we?
This is wonderful.
It's not a physical book, Steve. It's a digital book.
I love that.
Awesome.
All right. Steven, where can our listeners find you?
I started a new little side blog I'd love to send people to this time. WesleyanBooks.net. So check me out over there.
All right, Heath.
Sorry. They can go to they can go to heathmullican.com, and there they can find me on Twitter and Facebook and all that great stuff. So,
all right, Steve.
Facebook.com/Steve.Stanley.
Very good.
You can find me at MatthewTG.com. Oh, gracious.
Or at the bookstore.
All right, you can find me at Facebook.com/AKC64. Steven, we appreciate you hanging with us this week.
Thanks, guys. It's been a pleasure. It is a beautiful rainy day here in Shippensburg, Pennsylvania.
As you can see, it's snowing in our studios right now. So
I see that. You guys need to get the roof fixed.
Yeah. All right, if you want to do further research on anything we discussed today, you can find all the links to the stories we covered at our website, thetechnologyshow.com. If you want to contact us, send us your emails to thetechnologyshow@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail by calling us at 3049-TEOLOGY. That's 304-986-5649. Leave us a message. We may even play your comments on the air. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.
Adios.
Sayonara.
See you later.
Take a base of action. Green food. Skip across the holding sector and geese over. Admiral, we have enemy ships in Sector 47. It's a trap.